All right, everybody. I think we're about ready to start. Welcome to the Solving the Dropbox Problem webinar. My name is Matt Richards. I run products for OwnCloud, and I'll be the MC of the event today. So first, a few housekeeping items. As you'll notice, we have a very active chat window. You'll see Larry Helston in there. Larry's helping us out here, and we'll be keeping an eye on the chat window. So if you have trouble hearing me or you have another problem, please let me know, and we can address that. We also have a Q&A window, so if you ask questions as we go, please feel free to use that Q&A window, and we'll try to get to as many of those questions as we can as we go at the end. And if for some reason we can't get to all the questions, we'll get back to you post this webinar with answers to your questions there. So I think that's enough for the logistics side of it for now. Let's get started with some quick introductions first. As I said, I'm Matt, and I work at OwnCloud, and I run products. But the person that I'd like to introduce you to now is Frank Karliczek. Frank?
Hi, I'm here. My name is Frank. I'm the founder of the OwnCloud open source project and also one of the founders of OwnCloud Inc. And I'm the CTO, and I will help you today to solve your Dropbox problem.
Excellent. Thank you, Frank. Welcome. Frank is joining us from Germany, and we're outside of Boston right now, and ready to get started. So first, let's start with the headline, which is this entire concept of a Dropbox problem. We use Dropbox in this case in quotations as we speak with our fingers because we mean Dropbox not specifically in Dropbox has a problem, but we mean Dropbox type consumer file sync and share solutions. And here's what happens in the enterprise. I'll tell you a story. User A desperately wants to share something with user B, but for whatever reason, user A can't send files to user B, whether through email or SharePoint. Maybe it's too big. Whatever the concern might be, they can't do it. So user A finds something like Dropbox, and they toss the file out to Dropbox. Fantastic, because then user A gives user B privileges, and user B now has access, and they can continue doing their work. And that seems to work pretty well for user A and user B. Eventually what happens is user B goes home. They might take their laptop with them. They might install Dropbox on their home machine. And now user B has synced all of their files home. So what's wrong with this? Well, there's a couple of things wrong with this. User B might decide in a couple weeks to leave the company. When user B leaves the company, there is absolutely no deprovisioning going on. That link and that connection stays even after they leave the company. So very little governance, very little provisioning. There's security challenges on the storage and server side. And in the end, outside of IT, we have files and documents fundamentally leaking into Dropbox. So to give a little color to that, let's talk about some of the contributors and what's going on out there in the Dropbox problem. We have, I don't know if those of you out there know much about how Dropbox hosts what they do, but there is no such thing as a Dropbox data center. They host everything in Amazon. In a sense, Amazon is a black box to Dropbox, which is in a sense a black box to you. All resources being rented, it's unlikely that Dropbox does not even know, it is likely that Dropbox does not even know where the files are stored or who has physical access to those files in the Amazon data center. And that's part of the hardware challenge we have going on here. From a network standpoint, there is no backbone from a Dropbox. The resources are all rented. It's likely even that we don't know where the files are routed when they get sent out to the network and who has physical control or access. So, another area of concern for many. Storage. It's an interesting story about deduplication, the way Amazon does it, and the way, Amazon and Dropbox both do it. Dropbox will take a file and they'll break it into pieces, and they'll then send those pieces out, and they'll dedupe. So if a piece of a file looks like a piece of another file, then both users essentially share that piece of a file. That's the deduplication they do, which is great for margin, but problematic for you because now even if you delete your data, it's highly unlikely your data will ever be deleted from Dropbox. So that data persists. Once it's out there, it persists forever. If a file, so the third one we tend to see is the security. There's no zone control. There's zero control over storage access and lifecycle of the data. There's very little audit trail. There's no integration with existing authentication authorization. You're depending on both Dropbox and Amazon to do what they say they will do. On the administration side, it's administered to Dropbox's policy, not yours. So that means that it essentially also, another interesting tidbit about administration is that all files uploaded to Dropbox are the property of the person who owns the folder they're uploaded into. So if I share a folder with, say, Larry or Frank, and they put files into my folder, that's now mine, which is an interesting copyright challenge in of itself. And then there are all sorts of other legal and jurisdictional issues between the Patriot Act, FISA, DCMA, et cetera. So net, that's what we mean when we talk about the Dropbox problem. So how do we get here? It's very simple. Dropbox created this demand for this file sync and share thing a couple years ago. No one knew they needed. I didn't know I needed it. But as soon as I started using it, I had to have it. It was simple, it was free, it just worked. You could get it with a few clicks, no problem. And of course, the problem isn't that there are 100 million users of Dropbox, it's that we all work somewhere. And we brought that with us to work. And there's very little concern for IT security in that. And 44% or so of surveyed users in the large and very large enterprise that use Dropbox without the permission of IT. So the box being upside down, dumping things out rather than dropping things in is the real potential for data breach and regulatory compliance issues and all sorts of other risks to the business. So what do we do here at OwnCloud? It's very simple. We help enterprises who are concerned about sensitive data leakage via Dropbox deliver their own secure file sync and share solution on their storage inside their data center. Protect and manage sensitive data by storing it on-site on your servers managed to your policies. That's not just about the hardware and the storage, that's also about the administration, that's about the integration with your systems, which comes to point number 2. We integrate seamlessly into the existing infrastructure, which means as simple as authentication, but also extended mechanisms like custom backend storage. You might need a DLP solution, so we can extend functionality through OwnCloud to connect to an existing DLP solution, data loss prevention solution, for example. And still the idea is to provide, and we still provide, that seamless, easy to use, Dropbox-like access to the sensitive data that your end users have come to expect from these consumer-grade services that they're bringing into the enterprise. So that's what OwnCloud is. Protect and manage that data, integrate in with what you have, and extend that functionality, and still provide that Dropbox-like experience. So the previous picture gets redrawn a little bit when you think about how you use OwnCloud. You still have user A and user B, but now when user A and user B want to share information and share a document, you're sharing it through our own servers running in your data center. And they're your servers in your data center with your storage. It's integrated with your authentication mechanisms. So you provision and deprovision users. Users then share that information. It's completely trackable, traceable, auditable. So you know what file has gone where to whom when. It is managed to your policies for backup. It integrates in with your management or monitoring solutions. And it even connects in with your whatever governance tools you might have in the enterprise. All of that happens behind the firewall managed by your administrators. Then we have the firewall and you have access at home or on a mobile device. But unlike in the case of a Dropbox-like solution, we provide complete knowledge and traceability to the files that pass through the firewall to those endpoint devices. And of course, it's your firewall, and you can control that and stop, permit, as you see fit, access to OwnCloud. That's the basic solution overview, then, from an OwnCloud perspective. So what do we provide? Enough of this nice flashy drawing. What actually is OwnCloud? We like to talk about it as the flexible and secure file sync and share solution for enterprises. What does that mean? Well, that means you get this server piece on the top. We like to think of it as the brains of the operation. It is a core server application plus the web portal interface, and you see pictures of that in the background here. Bottom left, you also have iOS and Android apps, so you can access it from your favorite tablet or mobile phone. And we provide the Windows, Mac, and Linux desktops. So as a business, what do we provide? We provide subscriptions. We're an open source solution, and we provide subscriptions, which means the tools, influence, support, and SLAs around what you see on the left. And we also provide the consulting that allows you to extend OwnCloud through custom plugins to meet your unique requirements, allows you to install and helps you install and integrate OwnCloud into your environment, and also helps you scale it to perform to your specifications. And that's what we offer. One more slide here on the subscription before we get into to Frank and start talking about the architecture in a little bit more detail. So what do we mean when we say the subscription? We mean support, influence, and tools. We mean enterprise class support with SLAs from a global organization, providing that integration expertise and the updates and patches and migration assistance that you need to keep your own cloud up and running. That's one piece. Number two, on the influence side, that's access to the development team. That's access to the roadmaps and influence over the product roadmaps. It's influence over the planning process, and it's allowing us to help be a conduit to the community for you to provide influence and guidance over the overall OwnCloud project as well as OwnCloud, the OwnCloud Enterprise Edition. We provide certified distributions. We provide the OwnCloud Enterprise Edition, which is the certified enterprise edition of OwnCloud, and we provide that on top of that proprietary software. That software can help you better manage OwnCloud. It can also extend the functionality of OwnCloud in ways that are important to the enterprise and into large-scale enterprise production environments. We provide licensing of the copyright. So if you do need to make customizations, that means that with the copyright, we can allow you to make those customizations without having to open source any of that work on your side. And we'll provide performance tuning and documentation to get it right. So when we talk about the subscription, most people think you're only talking about support, and it's about a lot more than just support. So enough from me. Any questions going on out there in the chat that we should address while we're here? Okay. Enough from me then. Frank, let me hand it over to you. Let's start talking about the architecture and how this thing works.
Yeah, exactly. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the technical details, the architecture of OwnCloud, how this actually works and how this fits into your infrastructure. Here on this slide, this is the basic overview of the architecture. We have 4 areas here. In the middle, you see OwnCloud itself. It's the OwnCloud server. It provides access to data. More on this later. And it also provides functionality for metering and monitoring and basically controlling the information flow here. Then on the left-hand side, we have your storage. So OwnCloud can use your existing storage. You don't need to buy or to rent new storage. You can use your existing one, and it can be on-premise, so your existing file servers or NFS server or FTP server, whatever you have. And we can also use storage from the outside. So that's what we call here a hybrid cloud solution. So if you want to rent it, additional storage from S3, we can also use that. Of course, you have to be careful to not lose the benefits here. Because of that, we have a good encryption system that makes sure that only encrypted data is stored outside your firewall. On the right-hand side, you have all your devices, because having information, having data stored is only useful if you're actually able to access it. And there are all kinds of different ways to access it. We have a web interface, of course. We have very nice HTML5, Ajax web interface that they can use to manage your data. You can support drag and drop, for example. You can upload your files, download your files, and so on. Then we have rich desktop clients that sit on your Mac, Windows, or Linux desktop, and they sync one or more folders down to your machine. This means that you can access all your files if you're on the go, if you're on a plane or somewhere where you don't have internet access. You're still able to access all your files. And if you have internet access again, then all your changes are synced back to the OwnCloud server. So it's very similar to the clients that you know from Dropbox or Google Drive and so on. It just sits on your sys tray and works in the background. Very nice, I think. Additionally to that, you can also directly mount your own cloud with WebDAV if you want to do that. But normally we recommend just to use our desktop client. That's the most convenient way and works offline. Then we also have applications, OwnCloud apps for Android and for iOS. They both work on phones and on tablets. That means that you can also access all your files from all your mobile devices too. So basically what OwnCloud is doing here, as Matt said earlier, is basically bringing all your existing information that you have on the left-hand side, to all your devices in a managed way. So you can control and metering it, monitoring what's going on, and so on. So you can use all the information that you have, but in a controlled way behind your firewalls with your rules. On the bottom, we have our extensions, our apps or plugins, as we call it. This means that you can extend OwnCloud with all kinds of additional functionalities. Of course, LDAP, Active Directory support, obviously, that you have a single sign-on solution. Encryption, as I said, virus scanner, text editor, versioning, and so on. There are lots and lots of additional plugins that you can install and extend the basic feature set of OwnCloud. That's basically the main overview. Now we have a similar slide, but it's a little bit more technical. We talk a little bit more about technologies and protocols here. Again, you see that in the middle of the slide is the OwnCloud server itself. It's written in PHP, and it's written very similar to web applications, the standard web application. So it's very easy to run it in a scalable and high availability way. More about that later. And of course, we can talk with all kinds of APIs and protocols to the outside. On the left-hand side, again, we support all kinds of protocols to access your existing storage, like we can use NFS, GFS, ZFS, all kinds of file system adapters, and also cloud services like WebDAV, FTP, S3, Dropbox, Google, and so on. I want to talk a little bit more about WebDAV here, because it's very interesting. This means that you can actually mount one OwnCloud into a second OwnCloud. That means if you have different offices and different locations, you can basically mount one server into another, and to the user it just looks as one directory tree. Then, as I said, Dropbox and Google Drive. You're probably wondering why is this useful, because this presentation here is about solving a Dropbox problem. So why do we support Dropbox? Well, the thing is that sometimes employees in your organization or even you privately, you already use Dropbox. And if you tell all your employees, hey, Dropbox is now dead, please switch over to OwnCloud, that's sometimes difficult. Sometimes you want to have something like a migration path. And because of that, it's possible to mount your Dropbox into your OwnCloud server. So you can say you have some migration period and it's all accessible via OwnCloud, and users can just copy their stuff over to the OwnCloud storage. And then after some time, you can, as an administrator, say, okay, now I block Dropbox completely, and then this feature is removed. Then on the right-hand side, you see all the protocols that we support to access your data. As I said earlier, WebDAV, directly, HTTP, obviously. And then we have all kinds of other APIs for provisioning, for example, so you can control from the outside the user accounts, create new users, remove users, log users, and so on. Then we have reporting, metering, logging capabilities. So we have, in the Enterprise Edition, we have a special extension that can be used to integrate into your existing logging system that you are able to audit what is going on in your own cloud server. That's another very important thing that's not possible with Dropbox. And then on the bottom, you have sharing the capabilities API and application programming interface for your custom extension. That's another important point. OwnCloud can be extended with all kinds of special extensions, basically. So if you want to integrate OwnCloud into your internal system to do whatever, it's absolutely possible. It's very open. And theming, of course, which means that all of OwnCloud can be white labeled and themed, so you can have your company logo on it. And this is for the web interface, for the mobile applications, and also for the desktop applications. So we can do complete white labeling here. Okay, as I said earlier, OwnCloud is built in a way that it's very scalable and that it works very well with big installations. We basically engineered it very similar to high performance and high availability web applications. This means that we have application servers. You can see here on the left side, and you can have lots and lots of them, obviously. In front of them are usually a load balancer that you can just buy off the shelf. Nothing special here. Just has to talk HTTP, very, very standard. For the servers and for the application servers, we recommend Linux most of the time, but it also works with Windows. It's also fully supported, and also Mac is also possible. So it's very cross-platform. And then to run all these application servers, we obviously need two more things. First is a database, and second is some kind of storage, as I said earlier. For databases, we support MS SQL on Oracle and MySQL on Postgres for bigger installations. For very small ones, we also support SQLite, but it's only for when you just have a few users. And then storage, of course, we can leverage all kinds of storage, as I said earlier. If you have an NFS server, or if you have Windows ZIP server, or whatever, it's very flexible here. So all this architecture is built in a way that it's very, very easy to scale. So we don't have any problems with a six-figure number or even bigger of users, of course. Okay. Yeah. Then I want to talk a little bit about the features that we have. Of course, this is only a brief overview because we really have a lot of functionality, but this is the main stuff. As I said earlier, and Matt mentioned, the main point here is that OwnCloud actually runs in your data center. So it can be integrated in all your systems. It runs behind your firewalls. You decide the rules. It follows your policies. That's the main thing of OwnCloud. That's really what makes us different from any other solution. And then you can use your storage, as I said. You can have all these plugins to hook into your logging infrastructure, your authentication, and so on. So it's very, very flexible. Then syncing of files and folders, obviously. So this is not like a normal file server where you have to be behind your firewall or you have to dial in with some VPN or something to access all your data. You can actually sync your files and use them offline on the road. So that's very powerful. Sharing is the last thing here. This means that you can share information with people inside your organization, but also outside your organization. That's very, very powerful. Obviously, inside organization, it's similar to just like a normal file server where you can say, hey, make this folder available to someone else. But it's really, really shines. It's really, really powerful with sharing outside your organization, because with just one click, you can email someone a link to some document and make it available. And this link can be password protected and can be expire after some time. So it's very, very secure. It's also logged into your internal log, obviously, so you know as an administrator what's going on. So you basically enable your people to share and to sync your data, but you're still in control. You have you decide the rules, and you always see in the log file what's going on. Okay, then managing of files. We have a very powerful undelete feature. So if you accidentally delete a file or folder, it can be undeleted, and that's very interesting because it also works if you delete stuff, for example, on your local desktop, on your local laptop, and and it syncs to a server, and then the changes are deleted on the server. But you can also still go to the web interface and say, hey, please restore this file or folder, and I want to have it back. Then we have versioning and rollback, which means that you can always, if you accidentally, for example, overwrite a file, and you remember, oh, wow, there was something in this Word document, and I saw it last week, but I don't know where it's gone. Perhaps I just removed it accidentally and saved it 10 times already. You still can go into OwnCloud and check the old versions and roll back to an old version. And I also want to mention here is that old versions are also restored with the undelete. So it's really a full undelete, including all the versions. External storage, as I said earlier, you can mount in all kinds of external storage: Google Drive, Dropbox, S3, Swift, some Windows, SIF server, web stuff, and so on. Database support. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we support all the major databases: Oracle, MS SQL, if you have really big installations, MySQL, Postgres, also very popular, and SQLite if you just want to have a small setup for just a few people. The login modules, that's a commercial plugin only, which means that it's only available in the enterprise version, not in the open source version. This allows you to log all kinds of actions, what I said earlier, with sharing to the outside or deleting a file or accessing a file, and log this centrally. And you can basically audit all of what your users are doing and check if everything is okay. Sharing, provisioning API. Also, as I said earlier, this is also a commercial enterprise feature only that you can, with the REST interface, very easily provision your users. You can create new users, delete users, and so on. You can really control it. Of course, this is also only an option in parallel to Active Directory and LDAP. So if you use LDAP or Active Directory, all the user data comes from there. You have the choice here. White labeling, this means that we can provide themed versions of the web interface, of the desktop, of the mobile applications, so it really fits into your infrastructure, and also the acceptance of the users is normally way better if they recognize the company logo and the right colors and so on. Then we have all kinds of plugins to actually view and also edit documents in OwnCloud, the web interface. So you can view PDF files, ODF files, and so on. A picture viewer is available, and a few more. And drag and drop is very, very well supported, and it works very well. Okay, for the summary, I give back to Matt now again.
Cool. Thanks, Frank. We got a ton of great questions, so we're just going to run through the summary very quickly and then get right into answering some of those questions. Basically, this is about solving the Dropbox problem, as we described. That 44% of users in large and very large enterprises that are using Dropbox without IT's permission is a problem, and there are already news stories and lawsuits around what we call Dropbox espionage across companies related to people who kept their Dropbox provisioning, and went to a competitor. So interesting and problematic, and it's only going to get worse as the number of files that people are sharing grows. This is a secure on-site enterprise file sync and share solution, completely in your data center, on your servers, using your storage, integrating with what you have from an infrastructure standpoint, extending it where necessary to meet unique needs you might have or custom back-end integrations, and that whole consumer-like end-user experience that your users are demanding and the reason they bring Dropbox in the first place. Of course, don't take our word for it. We invite you over to owncloud.com. We have the architecture white paper, which describes in a little bit more detail what Frank just went through. You can grab that, download it, and follow up there. But don't go away yet. We have lots and lots of questions. There's the link to the architecture white paper. I know it's long, but at least it's text that you can type. And also just keep a note that our next Success webinar is coming up, which we'll talk about at the very end here. Over to the questions. The first one, so there was a very interesting question about if I use external Amazon storage, I will have the same privacy problems which I have with Dropbox, because I don't know where my data will be on S3. Is what you're thinking, right? Absolutely correct. We are extremely flexible in what you can do with OwnCloud. However, our primary use case and what we've focused on here is having your storage and all your files in your data center, on site. And while we do provide options to create some form of hybrid, the base use case and where most people are starting is with on-site storage. Your thinking is absolutely correct on that. The next question, where is data stored? Can you select a country outside of the U.S.? The data is stored in your data center on your storage wherever you choose to put it. So absolutely, can you choose a data center in the U.S.? Absolutely. You can choose your own data center. We do not provide hosted storage of any kind. We provide you the software. You choose the storage. What are the differences between the open source and the .com edition of OwnCloud? Well, there's a couple aspects here. The first one is the subscription that comes along with it. So we provide and build the product OwnCloud, and the subscription is what you purchase when you purchase the OwnCloud Enterprise Edition. That comes with the influence that we talked about over the product roadmap. It comes with the influence over the community and access to the community. That comes with a certified OwnCloud distribution, where we have certified the capabilities and quality of the software. It comes with proprietary software that we add on top of the OwnCloud open source software. And then it also comes with, of course, the support that we talked about with SLAs and the availability to reach out and get help rather quickly for the issues you might be facing. So what are the proprietary pieces? There are several. We have, for example, the logging modules for OwnCloud. The logging modules are a proprietary piece. One way to think about how we add things on top of the community edition are those things that enterprises find extraordinarily useful, but that the community probably won't want and in general doesn't really need. So that means things like the logging modules. That for auditing purposes at the enterprise level, that's who's logged in, who's shared what with whom, who's downloaded what files from what IP address by username. That sort of information is what you want to be logging if you're an enterprise looking for that level of control. Other things like the provisioning API is an enterprise-only feature, right? Because you want to integrate in and do provisioning with some form of automation solution connected to OwnCloud. Also an enterprise-only feature. Another question, is theming only available for the enterprise version? Yes, theming is only available for the enterprise version. We provide that service and can talk to you, those of you interested in the enterprise edition, as to how to make that happen. So MS SQL Express, or MySQL. Well, given the question, I'm assuming you're running on Windows, and in that case, it's truly up to you. We will support full SQL Server 2008 R2, and we will support MySQL either way, and then it becomes a preference. as to what you're most familiar with, what you can secure, and what works to your policy. Are you able to throttle the syncing? Remote location syncing large files, an example. What we can do is control the size of files that are uploaded and downloaded and put general constraints around a file. But Frank, throttling is, well, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, that's throttling on the client side. That's a planned feature. We don't have this at the moment. What is possible is most of the main firewall and load balancing models that provide a feature like that you can throttle individual connections. So if you use like a professional appliance or load balancer firewall here, you can do it there. From the own cloud side, we plan to do this in the future. Don't have this at the moment.
Thanks, Frank. Are you saying that the open source version shouldn't be used in a company? In general, so on to the next question there. In general, my answer would be yes. In production, it comes down to being able to provide you with that level of confidence that what you have is a fully production-ready, version. Then, what we also provide is some of that proprietary software that makes it a lot easier on you to run it in that environment and to integrate it in with your existing infrastructure. So for a POC, should you grab the appliance and give it a try? Absolutely. Feel free. But when you're going to go into production and you start having your users on the line, and in many ways your users are going to complain severely if they're working with central IT when there's a problem, yeah, you really want to have that level of confidence in what you're putting and what you're deploying. What's new in OwnCloud 5? So this is the OwnCloud. Let me explain a little bit about how we do our release process. We are an open source software business, as you know. We have the OwnCloud 5 Community Edition that was just released, and we will have the OwnCloud 5 Enterprise Edition, which will be released, we're expecting, in roughly a month to a month and a half. We do that because over the next month and a half, we are certifying the distribution, we're updating the proprietary software that sits on top of OwnCloud, and we're getting it ready for enterprise production environments. We always release the OwnCloud 5 Community, or the OwnCloud Community Editions before the OwnCloud Enterprise Editions. We certainly, if you're interested in poking around the OwnCloud 5 Community Edition, feel free, but the Enterprise Edition, for production purposes, I would wait for the Enterprise Edition. Now, Frank, you want to talk a little bit about the OwnCloud 5 new features on the Community Edition?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have several improvements all over the place. We have, for example, a completely new design. So the user interface is improved. It's easier to navigate. We worked with UX people here and did a few surveys with users, and it's really improved now. It's easier to use. Then we have the undelete feature that I mentioned earlier. That's new in OwnCloud 5. We have an antivirus app, which means that you can automatically check if uploaded files from users contain a virus or not, and then like delete them automatically or only lock them, so you can integrate it with some other process if you want. Then we have a full text search engine that's also very, very powerful. As in the past, we had a search bar, of course, as you know, on top of OwnCloud, but you can only find files by file name. With OwnCloud 5, you can also search in the files itself. We have an improved photo gallery, which looks better and supports sharing of photo galleries now. New documentation system. The integration with LDAP is way better. We support now display names, so you can easier find people because we see the real name of the person, not an internal login name. Versioning improved. We have huge performance improvements. So if you already use OwnCloud 4.5, you will see a big improvement in performance if you upgrade to 5, especially if you have a lot of users or a lot of files. and then all kinds of smaller improvements. I think we have on our website there's our official announcement from the OwnCloud 5 Community Edition, and you see a list of all the small features there that we have improved.
Awesome, thanks, Frank. And then the next question we'll take will be the last question. And I know there are many more questions in here that people had, and so what we're going to do is take those down and reach out to you and answer those directly. So keep them coming in. If something comes up, keep adding them because we're recording them, and we will go ahead and respond to you directly with answers to your questions. And this next question, how do I integrate OwnCloud with custom authentication mechanism, something we didn't talk about already? So let me take that opportunity to explain quickly an important and differentiated feature here of OwnCloud. One of the reasons people adopt OwnCloud has to do with its unique plugin architecture. So we talked about how we could extend OwnCloud to meet unique requirements, but that was very briefly. We have a plugin architecture that allows you to create an app, and we call them PHP, they're plugin apps. It allows you to create an app yourself or have us work with you to create one that allows you to connect to just about anything. So we've done custom authentication mechanisms, we've done OAuth, LDAP, SAML, and sometimes, if you're trying to do a SAML implementation, you might need to have a specific unique nature of that IDP. So we can customize the SAML plugin for that. We can customize it to connect to unique backend storage systems. We can customize it to connect to Ceph using S3, their S3 interface, which seems to be the best one. There's a number of different ways you can use our plugin architecture to access files on the back end, process files in a unique or different way in the middle, and then present and display those files on the front end. And so far we've talked to you about things like the antivirus app and the LDAP authentication, some of the things I just mentioned. Those are all achieved through plugins. OwnCloud has an extremely flexible plugin architecture. So just wanted to make sure that we answered that. With that, Frank, anything else you'd want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add that if you're in the situation that you look through the list of authentication mechanisms that we support and you don't find your special way in it, perhaps you use something completely proprietary, self-built, and you don't want to do this on your own, then we can definitely help you with integrating it. So we did this for a lot of customers already, and it's no problem at all to also integrate with your internal way to authenticate users.
Frank. And I think we'll just take one quick minute to talk about what's coming next in our webinar series. Our next webinar will be implementing a successful OwnCloud POC, and at that point we'll have one of our esteemed sales engineers as well as Bob Boulay and Luke will be coming along to present more on how a POC for OwnCloud can be implemented successfully. With that, I'm going to wrap up this particular call. Keep the questions coming in. We'll reach back out to you directly and answer those questions for you. Or you can take a look at owncloud.com, our website, and grab yourself the architecture white paper, or take a look and even download and give the software a try. Until next time, thanks for the time today. Appreciate it and look forward to talking to many of you soon.